Yo, Dragon Ballers, quick break in the video to give a huge shout out to PPG, who is going above and beyond to make our organized play season the best that it can possibly be. I'm here on the PPG event management website. I'm going to link this down in the description, so all you have to do to sign up for any of these events is go down to that link. An event that I know for sure that I'll be attending is the Too Many Games convention in Philadelphia. This is actually a regional for the regular Dragon Ball Super organized play season. So again, guys, super huge shout out to PPG. Secondly, this website is so awesomely laid out. All you have to do is go to this website. All these different tabs here will take you to the events you want to sign up for. I hope to see you guys there. Let's get back into the video. Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another Top Gun breakdown video. Today we have an event to cover all the way from Poland, which is super dope. It's always awesome when we can cover different regions and different areas of the world. But anyways, we'll get into that in today's video. If you're new here though, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways down in the description where you can do so. But today, guys, if you want to prep for events like this, step your game up, check out the Patreon down in the description. Not only can you read the articles that I have posted there, but you can also inquire about coaching if you are interested in that. Also, I just posted a combo guide for 2022, kind of like an updated kind of guideline slash thing you can abide by for how to combo in modern Dragon Ball Super. I think it's pretty helpful. But anyways, let's get right into this. All right, so we had the DBS Poland event from Pyrkon. So funnily enough, this event was not actually officially supported by Dragon Ball Super or Bandai, and this is really cool on behalf of these players' parts because they kind of took it upon themselves to set up an event at this con and play Dragon Ball Super. And there were 32 players, so yes, it was a little bit small. We're not going to take all this data as necessarily gospel or anything like that, but it's very cool that this event was orchestrated by players for players. And as far as I'm aware, they capped it at 32 kind of just to gauge interest and see how many players would show up. And they already mentioned that their next event they do in this area is going to be capped at 64, and they'll probably grow from there. So that's awesome, guys. If you guys are in that area, if you guys are from Poland or anywhere nearby, check these players out. Make sure to play in these events, because obviously more support for the game is going to lead to bigger events, which is very, very cool. I do have these deck lists down in the description of this video because the player that contacted me about this was nice enough and awesome enough to get those to me, which is awesome. So there should be a link down in the description to a Google Doc folder where you guys can see the written out deck lists. So that should be there for your guys' viewing pleasure. But anyways, let's get into this event. Again, 32 players, 5 rounds, best of 1 pre-side. So it's always good to know that sideboard was incorporated here. We have GT Goku coming in first place. We have Finn in second place. Third and fourth shared by Trunks Vegeta. Fifth, King Vegeta, Mono Red King Vegeta, believe it or not. Sixth, SSG Trunks. 7, Cell Reboot. And 8, Skillless Gohan. So a lot of this is stuff that we've seen this format already, that we expect to see. And there's some pretty cool outliers. So let's talk about this. First place, GT Goku. Now what's interesting is week 1 of Ultimate Squad format, GT Goku was literally nowhere to be found. But the past couple weeks, this deck has been picking up some popularity, doing some things here or there. Interestingly enough, though, this has been doing particularly well at smaller tournaments. That might, say something to you. I'm not sure. But I do think that GT is a very good deck in general. I mean, with the hits we saw to aggro going into set 16, there aren't that many, I guess, like mainstream aggro picks you can think of. There are a few good rogue ones. Like I think Jiren, Red Jiren's one of them. I think AOD is one of them. But as far as like more mainstream aggro goes, I do think GT is probably the top dog if I had to just pick one right now. I think the deck's very, very good. It's very similar to U7 in the sense that it establishes a lot of threats for very, very cheap, being 1 energy and the occasional free battle card. Like you have King Piccolo, New Ruler, you have your Overwhelm of choice. So you do have some free aggression, but really all red decks have those same things. So yeah, 1 energy threats, and then your boss monster being a pretty big 3-drop is pretty solid. So I do expect GT to stick around, but it's got some interesting matchups, and one of those is definitely Finn. So Finn comes off of winning the first event of Ultimate Squad, or rather big event, might I add, but Finn shows some consistency here, which is pretty cool. This deck can do very, very well against a deck like GT, where you can just play your Unison Absorber, suck up their Unison, and they just lost a ton of advantage, because for the GT deck in particular, their Unison is essentially an extension of their hand, because they can play battle cards from under it, right? So Finn taking away that resource is great. There are other very powerful Unisons in the format. You have most blue decks playing the Buu Unison. You have Yellow Sin Shenron playing Machikabura Unison. You've got other really great powerhouse Unisons that Finn can deal with very, very effectively. And of course, the Mirror Chain is a very good top end in this format. Just having this type of boss monster that, you know, the 3-drop overall was pretty easy to interact with in and of itself, but the Mira itself, the Crater Absorb, has Deflect. When it comes down, that auto is going to resolve, take 3 cards out of the opponent's hand, and then swing for a huge double strike. So I do think it's a great top end. Very, very cool to see Finn show consistency in this format. And then we have Trunks Vegeta, the most topping deck of this event, right? Trunks Vegeta, to no one's surprise, is a very good deck. I don't really think I would say it's, you know, best deck in format. I guess that slot, as far as the community is concerned, has been going to U7 Goku, which I can see. I mean, that deck was the 3rd most popular of last format, only behind King Piccolo and Gogeta Xeno, and those 2 decks were hit very, very hard, so it makes sense that U7 Goku would be commonly considered as best deck in format. But funnily enough, that deck doesn't even make an appearance here. But again, smaller tournament, more local, so that's to be expected, right? Maybe they just don't have U7 players in that area, or maybe the U7 players had a bad day. That could totally happen. But yeah, Trunks Vegeta, very consistent, very good deck. Taking up 2 slots here, definitely not surprising to me in the least. King Vegeta, this is a very, very surprising one. Again, like, I don't want to thrash on this, but local tournament, I'm not ready to put a ton of stock into King Vegeta, but I guess when you look at it on the face, there are a lot of 1-drop threats, right? Like, you have the 19k critical Vegeta that looks top 5, can add super combos, which is pretty cool. But I guess the way King Vegeta operates now, because the field card was errated, you have to pay 1 in order to give your opponent one of the Young Invaders, right? So back before that errata, many of your threats in this deck were actually 1-drop threats, and you actually had the few tournament pack cards that were actually 0 energy investments, although they were more so just like 10k attackers, but could still, you know, threaten on Awakened Leaders, right? So what I'm saying is, before the errata, you had a lot of 1-drop threats. Nowadays, if you're playing like SSG Vegeta to the next level, that's going to cost you a total of 2 energy, but I guess if you're just breaking down the value, you're paying 1 to give your opponent a Young Invader, which is going to burn them a life, right? So just by that 1 energy, you automatically dealt the damage, and then for the 2nd energy, you're playing a critical threat that adds a card, and then, yeah, swings for a 19k critical. So for 2 energy, dealing an automatic damage and then swinging for a 19k crit seems like solid value, especially while we're going further into the Dragon Ball Super card game where, you know, they are, anything that's cheap aggression, they have slowly been hitting it over time. Like, we had a lot of free play aggression back in the day. Most of that has been neutered and became unplayable due to the ban list. And now, like, we have a lot more of like this 1-drop efficient pressure, which I think is a pretty okay state for the Dragon Ball Super card game to be in, considering all the different floodgates we have access to and whatnot. But yeah, just like that value breakdown I offered you guys, you know, 2 energy, burn a life, 19k crit that adds a card to your hand. That seems like a decent amount of value for the energy you're paying. But yeah, I'm not ready to say that King Vegeta is like back or anything and that it's going to be a consistent aggressive force in the meta, but maybe it's one of those pretty cool rogue ones that players can experiment a little bit more with. It seems like a red deck too that doesn't necessarily need a unison to play the game, because, you know, if you want to just keep all your interactions in this deck to 1 energy or less, I think you can possibly get away with that. But kind of a cool thing to think about now that this deck has actually done something in this format. That's pretty cool. And then we have SSG Trunks. SSG Trunks, black has probably been the most underrepresented color in this format, if I'm just remembering correctly off the top of my head. I mean, we've had, you know, 2 Finn top at this point. We've had a Toa. I think that might sum up most of black that we've seen in this format. So far, we've covered like 3, 4, or 5 tournaments. And yeah, I think this might also be the first appearance of SSG Trunks, maybe the second. But anyways, I'm rambling a little bit. Black, definitely very underrepresented in this format. It seems like one of the weaker colors in this format, to be honest, except for the outliers, again, like Finn, that has some pretty good matchups across the board. But not all of Finn's matchups are going to be great because it is such a counter to unisons. Any non-unison reliant strategy can probably give Finn a pretty rough time. But yeah, SSG Trunks is one that I think people expected to kind of pick up where Gogeta Xeno left off, because you can play a lot of that, just like those good black sand cards, and you can very effectively play your one of Thwarting the Dark Empire SS3 Gogeta, because, you know, if you happen to warp it, you can always pick it back up with SS4 Goku Beyond All Limits. That's always going to be an option. And Trunks is definitely a bit more of like a mid-range black deck where you have some interesting floodgates you have available to yourself. You have a few different battle tricks that Trunks also has available to himself just for being a black Trunks leader. And yeah, I think the leader really benefits from an elongated mid-range game. You have removal built into the leader. So, I mean, yeah, I think as far as black decks go, SSG Trunks is probably one of the better ones. So I would not be surprised to see it top here and there. But I don't think black is going to be all that highly represented this meta. Mostly because Gogeta Xeno was really carrying the color on its back, and now that deck is gone. Cell Reboot, though, we have pretty much the opposite story for Green. Green has been very, very consistent so far in this format between Cell and cooler topping events here and there. Green's back on the map, man. I think it's finally time to say that Green is one of the top colors in the meta, and not only being carried by a super degenerate deck like Green Yellow Cell, right? Like Surge Cell. So yeah, with Cell Reboot in the format here, I mean, the deck is pretty annoying, to be honest. It's pretty tough to counter too. Even though there is sideboard best of one, it is one of the tougher ones to counter. I should probably do a countering video for this week. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see that. But good ways to deal with this deck. You can always have decent removal for their 8-drop, but if you're not using minusing power, basically if you're not playing red, it can be very, very difficult to remove that 8-drop from the board. And most decks don't actually have a counterplay that stop Perfect Force Cell from actually resolving its ability. So you're looking at either playing one of those decks that has that unique interaction, or you're looking at killing Cell before they get to Perfect Force, or you're looking at sideboarding a card like Machikabura Broken Seal that can prevent them from playing Perfect Force Cell altogether. It's a little bit expensive for 2 energy, but I mean, this is a deck that's going to take you to the long game, so 2 energy investment is probably not going to be asking all that much, but that is a very good sideboard answer to this deck. But yeah, Green definitely back. I would say it's probably one of the top colors. If I had to guess, I would say red is probably top dog right now, I think followed by yellow. Then I would say green, then blue, then black. And speaking of blue, we have Skillless Gohan. This is a pretty cool pick. I think blue is definitely still in a space where it's figuring itself out. Like, we haven't really seen a true blue Bastion yet. Gamma is one that a lot of people had their hopes up for coming out of the Ultimate Squad set, and that hasn't really done too much. It has topped like one event here and there, but so far not that crazy. SS4 Vegeta is actually also underperforming to where I thought it would be personally, but I think blue is in this sort of cool spot where you have blue aggressive decks, which is not something we've had for a long time. Like, you have Skillless Gohan, which is a solid blue aggressive deck. You have SSG Goku Crimson Warrior, which can house a few different aggressive blue shells. And you have Gamma, which I would personally consider a blue aggressive deck for sure. But then you have your blue control decks like SS4 Vegeta, like SS3 Reboot, maybe even some true mid-range. Again, I think people will sort of start to figure out the better Soul Striker lists that kind of incorporate their own self-awakening. But I think once that happens, I do think Soul Striker is a pretty solid deck because the leader is still just a value powerhouse. But it's definitely interesting to see that blue has fallen out of this meta, where it really didn't see that much of a hit on the Ultimate Squad ban list, except again for the Soul Striker leader. But SS4 Vegeta still remains strong out of set 16. Where has it been? Maybe players just aren't picking it, or maybe there's something at work in the meta that's giving it a hard time. Funnily enough too, like, hand control is one of blue's biggest problems, but blue does have Godsling Technique Trunks, which is a pretty good answer to Perfect Force Cell. Granted, you have to keep your unison alive, but I think it's pretty doable in blue decks. But those are just my thoughts on the state of blue right now. But anyways, guys, as always, let me know in the comments below what you think about this breakdown. Again, deck lists are down in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.